It Chapter 2 is the sequel to the highly successful horror film It Chapter 1, which actually is the most financially successful horror film of all time. Now, Chapter 2 takes place 27 years after the events of Chapter 1, where a group of kids who called themselves the Losers had to defeat Pennywise the Clown, who had been terrorizing their little town of Derry and murdering young children. Now, in Chapter 2, Pennywise has returned. He's once again murdering people in the town, so one of the characters brings all of the losers back to Derry as they had promised to do when they were kids in case Pennywise has ever come back. So now they must make sure that Pennywise is defeated once and for all. Now, I'm a huge fan of the first film, and it may have been in my top 10 for that year if I recall correctly, but not so much for the horror elements. I love that film for the young cast, their chemistry, their bonding, their camaraderie, and the whole coming of age element of that film really spoke to me. I enjoyed that aspect of it, and you throw that in with the horror elements, and I had a really good time with the first film. So I was hoping for more of the same. Now, of course, It Chapter 2 will be vastly different because now all of these kids have aged 27 years and now are all adults. So the dynamic is different and they carry a lot more baggage with them now, but you know, I just didn't feel the same with these characters as I did with the first film. Maybe it's because when you're kids, it's just easier to get along. You don't need really much to connect, just one small thread of common interest and hey, let's be friends. But when you're adults, it takes a lot more to have that connection, and I just didn't feel it in this film quite as much as I wanted to. The cast itself is great. I love the cast. You got James McAvoy, Jessica Chastain, Bill Hader, all great actors. And not only are they great actors, but they were cast as close as possible in appearance to their child counterparts. So they did a really good job casting this movie. But again, the writing just kind of failed me, where it didn't really have me invested in these characters as much as I was when they were kids. And man, this movie is just so fucking long. I had no idea how long this movie was gonna be. I normally do check the run times before I start to watch a movie, but I figured, it's a horror movie, how long could it be? And I was on my ass in my chair for 3 freaking hours. This movie is that long. And thank God for those leather recliners, man, because I don't know if I would have made it otherwise, but this movie is long as hell. It doesn't need to be that long. And it's just trying to be this grand epic finale, but it doesn't need to be. It's a fucking horror film about a clown, man. There could have easily been like 20 to 30 minutes shaved off from this film, and it would have been a lot leaner, a lot better. Some scenes just go on for way too long. I get that they're trying to establish each of these loser characters as adults and kind of tell you where they are now and have them all encounter Pennywise again when they return to Derry, but there was just too much detail and too much effort into establishing these characters, where it would have been better off had they just started establishing the actual story earlier and let the plot move along. And I also didn't understand why they felt they needed to give Pennywise an origin. I mean, come on, man. Pennywise is a fucking clown. He's a monster clown. I don't need to know how he came to be who he is. And quite honestly, in these types of movies, it's actually scary if you don't know shit about the villain or the monster. That makes them more creepy. You don't know what they're capable of, but once you start telling me shit about how they got to be how they are, man, it just kind of ruins it. And the film invests a lot of time in trying to establish that mythology, and I just didn't need it. And also, one more thing, while I'm bagging on the writing for this movie, there's a running gag in the film where one of the characters became a really famous author and everyone loves his book, except that they all say that he has really shitty endings. Well, guess what? Happens to this movie as well, because this movie has a really shitty ending. I'm like, are you fucking serious? That's how you're gonna end this movie? That's how this grand epic story is gonna end? I was like, oh my god, I sat through 3 hours for that bullshit. So yeah, I am not a fan of the writing for this movie. You know, this film, it suffers from the Nightmare on Elm Street syndrome, if you want to call it that. And what I mean is, if you saw the original Nightmare on Elm Street back in the early 80s, man, you were scared as shit whenever Freddy came on screen. You didn't know who this guy was, what the hell his deal was, and what he could do, and I was just scared as fuck whenever he came on. But with each following film, he became more and more of a caricature of himself, more cartoony and just not scary anymore. It just kind of was just writing around scenarios to have Freddy come out, and that's really what It Chapter 2 felt like. Pennywise was no longer this really strong monster, villain, creepy character. He is now a cartoon, and scenes were just specifically written for him to come out in some pseudo creepy manner, and it just didn't work for me. He just lost all of his creepy luster, and you know, the actor Bill Skarsgård, he tried really hard, but it just wasn't as effective as it was the first time around. So yeah, it kind of suffered that Freddy Krueger syndrome for me a little bit. So yeah, you know, I wanted to love this film. I wanted to even like this film. I can't say that I did. It's overly long. Couldn't get invested in the characters. Now no longer scary. It lost the coming of age aspect, which I really liked in the first film. So for me, It Chapter 2 gets a 5 out of 10. Thanks so much for watching my review. If you like it, please give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to my channel MC on Film for more reviews in the future.